Never Seen It Film Club, the film club where we watch films that you've never seen. I'm Accidental Theatre's Emma Bainbridge, and joining me as always, he's handsome, he's dapper, he's a film buff, Robert J. Simpson from Cinepunkt.
Hello. Thank you.
That was one of your more demure
kind of. I mean,
welcomes. I liked it.
You know, I find introductions bizarre at the best of times. So yeah.
I feel like at this point we should just be like, you know who we are. Here's a lower third.
I'm Emma. Yeah, you're Robert.
Yeah.
Things at the bottom of the screen.
There we go.
You can work it out. It's only on the audio version of this that's actually an issue.
And if you think that I'm Robert with my dulcet tones, then I'm happy. I'd be okay with getting confused with you.
That's an excellent Drag King act.
I'd
watch that.
Yeah. Done. Dusted. We're back. So yeah, we are back. We just did Belle de Jour. That was an interesting episode. Hopefully the equipment doesn't break down today and you get to see our beautiful faces for the entirety of this video. Although I have to say the animations did make me look very skinny, so I quite enjoyed those. But yes, we are back. And this week we are tackling the behemoth 90s cult classic, Cruel Intentions from 1999.
You know, you could be a model. It's too bad you're not sexy.
I can be sexy.
You know what would be super duper sexy? If you lost all the clothes.
Huh?
I'm sick of sleeping with these insipid Manhattan debutantes.
Ow!
Nothing shocks them anymore.
But you can relax. I have a mission for you. Why I Plan to Wait by Annette Hargrove.
Paradigm of chastity and virtue.
Introduce her to your world of sex, drugs, and what else do you do? She's young, supple.
She'll be my greatest victory.
You don't stand a chance.
Care to make a wager on that?
If I win, then that hot little car of yours, mine.
And if I win?
I'll give you something you've been obsessing about ever since our parents got married. Happy hunting, Sebastian.
Ciao. Do you think you could arrange a little get-together?
Don't think this isn't gonna cost you.
God, you're beautiful.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
People shouldn't experience the act of love until they are in love.
Do you mind if I take my new car for a ride?
I can't win with you.
It's not about winning, Sebastian.
Please stop.
It's okay, you can laugh. She's really getting you, isn't she?
I'm completely infatuated with her. We're destroying an innocent girl. You do realize that.
You're just a toy, Sebastian.
Get it together.
Let me know when you do.
I thought we were just gonna be friends.
Is she for real?
Stop it.
In the game of seduction, there is only one rule.
Why can't we be together?
Because I don't trust myself with you.
Never fall in love.
Are you in? Or are you out? Quite the predicament you're in.
Cruel Intentions.
My advice is to sleep with as many people as possible.
So, I grew up in the 90s, as I'm sure you did too, being that we're both still alive and it's 2024.
I mean, grow up.
I was probably just about to go into secondary school when this came out. So I don't remember it being around very much in my kind of peripheral. So I saw it a bit later in life. I was probably about 18 or 19 when I first saw Cruel Intentions. And it came from a long line. I feel like too many adaptations of classics that came out in the mid-90s, early 2000s. So there was Cruel Intentions. There's 10 Things I Hate About You. There was Oh, that terrible one. That's the Othello.
Okay, I have not seen that one.
Oh, it's interesting. There is Get Over It, which might be the best adaptation, which is Midsummer Night's Dream. Amazing. Cisco classic. Then, of course, there was Clueless. So I feel like Dangerous Liaisons was an obvious choice for an adaptation. So, yeah, it was weird. It was weird. It was weird.
It was weird.
It wasn't bad, But the first time I saw it, I was like, why is everyone wearing jewel tones? And why do these teenagers have more money than God? But also, why are they acting like they're 50? Like, it was just
Sexy school kids.
with, like, yeah. I don't know. It makes Dawson's Creek look like a documentary.
Yeah. Well, Dawson's Creek at least felt closer to my actual life back then. I mean, this is just so far removed. Even though we obviously have Dawson Creek's Pacey, which is Joshua Jackson.
Playing my favourite character.
Yeah, queering things up for
Yeah.
a change. Although not the only queer character within the film.
No, but definitely the only winner of the film. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, so I was probably like you, I was about 18, 19 when I saw it, but I was 18 when it came out. And I don't think I've seen it in the cinema. I think I must have caught it on like VHS or DVD shortly after. And I don't remember liking it very much at the time. And I said that before I watched this again. And I rewatched it and I still don't like it very much. And I had hoped that, you know, with 25 years more life experience, that I might appreciate some of the subtleties that I didn't get first time round. Like, I mean, maybe one or two of the very subtle subtleties, but the rest of it, I still don't care for it. I don't care.
I don't think subtlety exists in this film.
I was quite a naive teenager.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I feel that there are things that probably went over my head at that age that don't go over my head now. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Cruel Intentions is literally an adaptation of Dangerous Liaison. It focuses on Kathryn and Sebastian, two step siblings who've been left all summer in their brown brick redstone
Palatial
mansion
residence.
in the middle of New York, with full disposal of maids and cars. They are having normal teenage drama of, you know, oh, my therapist overcharging me, so I'm going to sexually blackmail her daughter for the lols. And my boyfriend dumped me, so I'm going to ruin this girl's life forever, even though she doesn't know who I am. And Teen Beat magazine, ruining everything. So I'm going to ruin the person that wrote it. It's just so... There's a lot in it. There's a lot. But basically, it's just an excuse to play really good music and watch teenagers fuck. I think that's it. We're good. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Never Seen a Film Club. No, it's more nuanced than that. It is. There's a driving force of inequality that goes through the film, which is Kathryn is a slut because she is a woman, and Sebastian's a player because he's a man, and she's pissed about that, and he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. And that's the only takeaway I have from the film. No, it's not. It's not the only takeaway, but it certainly is a problem. But anyway, so the story is that these two teenagers are, I have to keep calling them teenagers because they act and look and dress like 35-year-olds. And in my head, I had to be like, they're 17. They're 17. And they're doing this shit. But anyway. So Sebastian hatches a plan that he wants to ruin the reputation of Annette, who has written an article about the values of saving your virginity, which is something that he is taking quite a big exception to. He's like, it's very slut-shamey. We don't do that in this house unless it's me doing it, and then it's fine. Typical man, you know. So he hatches this plan that he's going to go and seduce her, ruin her reputation, and have the ultimate legacy before he leaves high school of fucking the headmaster's daughter who's written this article about being a virgin, and that will be his glory days. That's pretty much the plot for him. Mm-hmm. Then Kathryn, who is his stepsister, who they're very inappropriate with. We'll get into that in a sec. Her whole thing is that she wants to ruin the life of the little innocent girl she got dumped for by her boyfriend. that's her whole shtick, because she can't be seen to attack him, because then she'll just be called a crazy bitch. And she's more conniving and evil than that. They have a lot of sexual tension. It's very obvious that that tension comes from being Kathryn's side of it. For me, is that she won't fuck Sebastian because she knows what he's really like, but she is infatuated with him because he knows exactly what she's like. Sebastian is infatuated with Kathryn because she is the one woman that he cannot have. And it's very weird. There's a lot of interesting conversations that happen. So that's the synopsis. So what did you think?
I mean, I think my biggest problem with this as a film is that any films in which are geared around class structures and everyone is pretty much of the same class and that class is upper class, I find that a bit hard. I mean, it's like Saltburn. You know, it's in that sense, it's very similar kind of space to that. It's hard to really engage or give a shit whenever everyone is so privileged and narcissistic and there are no real consequences morally to anything that they do, say, or think. There's a lot of titillation in this. I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar as Kathryn in sexy lingerie, tempting Sebastian, Ryan Philippe. I mean, I can kind of, I certainly understand, that teenage sexual frustration. And I mean, you know, pornography is full of step-sibling relationships. So it's obviously like this great classic taboo. And then the other stuff is basically just comes down to, you know, manipulating people that they perceive as weaker, and it's shooting down, and I don't think there's enough of a moral journey within it. There's no kind of, I don't feel anybody comes away really learning anything from it. I don't think anyone's massively improved. Selma Blair, who's Cecile, is possibly sexually awakened. She's the oldest of the cast of the youngsters, and yet she's playing the youngest. So it's, you know, you can watch this and be titillated, but also feel slightly inappropriate. Won't put you on a watch list though, because they're all of age, and there's no proper sex. Reese Witherspoon, I think I'd forgotten she was in this. That was a nice surprise. So she's the headmaster's daughter, Annette, and her character has no strength, because actually she should be the one that's the strongest, because she's this very clear moral position that she takes, and you know, she's part of that group that's saving themselves for special times when you've got that special loved one bound to you with a ring and a legal document. But she gives it up far too easily. It
takes no time whatsoever.
No.
What I love about the film is that at the start, it's all like, you know, she's like, you have to be in love. People our age can't be in love, and you're like, well, because we don't have the emotional maturity to feel that way. And I'm like, well done. Yeah, no, that's true. And like 3 minutes later, she's like, no, but I love you. And you're like, no, he's just a pretty boy who has a lot of money. And he was an asshole to you, and you've fallen into the literal oldest trap of all time, where it's like he's good looking and rich. So,
but I think she knows that too. I think that it comes across very much like she is well aware about his reputation, exactly what kind of manipulator he is, and exactly what kind of bad boy he is, and what that's going to mean for her and her reputation and everything else. And actually, she doesn't really care enough about it, because I think part of her. I mean, I'm inclined to just see a lot of what I'm seeing at the moment within the media and within socials around certain groups and their kind of moralistic stances and the hypocrisy within it. And I feel, yep, you epitomize a certain kind of America, and you know, you'll say one thing, you'll do another, and there are no actual real consequences for you in this. I mean, she gets a sort of liberation from it, but I kind of feel it's a shame, because I wish that she had been more steadfast. I wish that there was some kind of, like, she's not even, for someone who protests and has these strong moral and religious kind of convictions, apparently, to begin with.
Yeah.
There is no wrestling with that.
No.
So there's no journey. So I don't care. I actually don't care about anyone in this film. The only one I feel ever so slightly bad for is Cecile, who I think is being massively manipulated because of her age. And ultimately, she does all right out of it.
She's okay. The thing with Cecile as well is that I think you're also supposed to feel quite bad for her love interest, Ronald, who's the cellist.
Yes.
But I can't because he's a 21-year-old man.
Who's also manipulating.
Who's also manipulating a sweet 16-year-old girl.
Is she 16? Is she not younger than that?
She's supposed to be 16. I think because she's supposed to be, I think, a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
So that would make her 16.
I mean, he's definitely abusing his position of power. I mean, it comes down to the reason that he's essentially booted out isn't because of anything else. It's actually just because of colour. Yeah. Because he's the only person that's not white within this wonderfully upper middle class, kind of space.
Yeah.
And so we got to get rid of him because he's intelligent, he's sexy, and my gosh, he can use his fingers.
Apparently so.
It's just not a film I care for because there's no characters I care for.
The only character that I have any time for is Christine Baranski, who is the mother of Cecile.
The racist!
She's racist. She has the best line in the film. But she's the only one who knows what the fuck is going on, and yet she is also terrible. It's a film about terrible people doing terrible things to each other. So I have no sympathy for any of them except Cecile. And that's only because she's so innocent and all. Like, she genuinely is just like innocent sexually, innocent from a moral standpoint. She's a sheltered boarding school girl who's just been absolutely left to the wolves. And in fact, one of my favorite shots in the film is when she comes to see Ryan Philippe's character, Sebastian, to lose her virginity. She's literally wearing a red hood. She is Little Red Riding Hood coming to see the wolf. And you're like, no, baby girl, go home. No. It's just... I really love how stylish this film is because it's just like, it's decadent and it's lovely to watch. But when you actually watch the content, you're like, this is terrible. This placebo song has led me into watching just rich assholes be rich assholes, and yet we are obsessed with that as a culture, and we just love to watch it. And, believe me, I've watched enough Below Deck to know that those people are like that. They are.
Yeah, it's a very predatory film, and what it does with the gays is not good.
The gays, not the gays.
Although what it does with them isn't good either, to be fair. It's not kind on anyone.
It's really not.
And I suppose this part of me accepts that there is a lot of predator behavior that goes on as people are discovering their sexuality and their sense of who they are as a person in your teenage years and into your early 20s. So it is like holding a magnifying glass up to the world, but it's also perpetuating those myths and those stereotypes and encouraging that kind of abusive behavior. And at the end, whenever we finally kind of bump off one of the assholes, which is possibly the film's one redeeming quality.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of that bit in space where they're watching Grange Hill and kind of yay! This is that's finally something has happened that I care about.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I don't believe his
redemption arc does not exist. See, there's this bit, right? There's this guys. Him and Annette have a falling out, right? He goes to the house and they're like, she's gone to the city to stay with someone else. He gets in his Jaguar Roadster, drives like a bat out of hell into New York, and just happens to be at the top of the escalator when she comes up off the train. And she goes, I'm impressed. And he says, I'm in love. Why are you impressed? He got in a car, he drove, he was standing there for maybe 15 minutes. That's impressive.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it is the days before...
New York traffic? I don't fucking care.
It's the days before smartphones. It's not like you can just put an app on someone's phone now and stalk them that way. I mean, this takes a little bit more planning. That's
there's
impressive.
There's one train station from the country estate to one train station that's in Manhattan. He has a cell phone. He phones everybody and gets her information. And I know for a fact that he could have got her flowers or he could have done something. But no, Ryan Felipe in his little stupid shirt where he hasn't got the cuff buttons done just happens to stand at the top of the escalator and wins the girl. There's the bare minimum. And then there's that. And I remember that shot and that being talked about. It's like such a romantic moment in 90s cinema. And I'm like, he got in a car and drove a place and stood. That's it. In the 80s, he would have at least had to have a boombox. Just saying.
That's true. It's true.
I got a bit heated there, guys. I'm sorry. But it was the bare minimum.
I feel like you need somebody to do this for you at some point, Emma.
I need a moment. Here, listen, I don't even get people standing at the fucking car at the airport. You know what I mean? No one comes and gets me. I get a text message. Oh, you have to get the glider. All right, cool. I'll be there. Do you know? No one's waiting for me, so I should be like, oh, isn't that romantic? Someone stood out of a car.
I did once have an ex do that for me, who met me at the airport with a little sign, and I think thanks to all these films and stuff, I really felt that moment. And I suppose it's that thing where the films perpetuate this idea about what we think is romance and what kind of is acceptable, because it's not even a massively public display of affection. It's not like some sort of shitty Love Actually moment where you have got a brass band and signs and stuff and some kind of like, hi darling, I care. It's like, yeah, hello, I'm here.
I showed up.
I showed up. To be fair, the state of many men is indeed, a start.
To be fair, I'm going to say, like, usually I'd be all about the male bashing. I'm saying my ex, after a horrendous time where I got stuck in Amsterdam for an extra 3 days because the fucking strikes happened.
Yeah.
I was exhausted. I was emotional. I was so excited. They didn't even get out of the short stay car park to come help me with my bags. I texted them. They were like, I'm here. I was like, where? They were like, I'm the other side of the short stay car park. So I was dead excited just to have a moment to see this person that I had missed. And I was so distraught. And I'd had to queue in an airport for 9 hours to pick up bags and then had to go stay in this weird hotel. It was a whole thing. And I just wanted a hug. No, they just sat there. Didn't even get out of the car and help me with my bag. Got in, I was like, well, hi. And they were like, yeah, right, we're going home now. And I was like, thanks. And do you know what, guys? Do you know what? It wasn't even the international airport. It was the fucking city airport. It's opposite IKEA. Didn't even take me for meatballs. Nothing.
No meatballs.
Nothing. So maybe Ryan Felipe is the standard in this movie. Just triggers.
So basically, if your ex had met you at the escalator, you would be a lot happier about this film.
I would be like, isn't this the most romantic thing that ever happened? It's so sweet. He got out of the car. What a gentleman. Also, I have a hard time believing that he beat New York City rush hour traffic to get there and then found the exact right spot. I know it's supposed to be symbolic, but to me, I'm just like, in movies where these beautiful moments happen, the logistics for me just cannot be escaped. I'm like, how many tourists did he have to battle to push out of the way so that he would be standing there? And he's not even just standing there, he steps forward.
We don't even see a train, do we?
No.
I mean, for all I know, he's selling in a mall. He's waiting in the mall for her to go and buy some shoes.
Because they're teenagers.
I mean, sorry, you can't have that symbolism if you don't have a concourse and or a train. That's where the romance is.
He needs to be racing the train.
There needs to be something. There needs to be that moment where, oh, she hasn't got off. Oh. Then we kind of have a bit of drama, a bit of care. She's looking around.
Even Friends had that moment. Where's the thing? What airport are you at, Ross? JFK. That was heartbreaking. That happened. We didn't know she got off the plane, but she did. But Reese Witherspoon did get off the train, so I don't know.
Do you want the number of a therapist? I feel like today.
Guys, this film triggered so much in me. But actually, it's one of those things where I know how problematic this film is, right? I know it's terrible. I know it is reinforcing my place as a working class hobo to these people. And yet, anytime it comes on Channel 4, I will watch it in its entirety. And at the end, I'll go, yeah, that was good. And then I think about it and go, no, it wasn't. That was fucking terrible. It's a roller coaster ride of emotions.
I mean, it's not even. I guess now maybe I'd feel a bit better if there were upper class people who'd been shitty to working class people the whole way through the film, but they're not, because working class people are largely absent from the film.
No, the working class people are exactly where they should be. Maids.
Invisible.
And chauffeurs. And that is it.
So you haven't got that kind of tension there. So it becomes about the relationships and the manipulation. And that's, I'm so obviously struggling to identify with that, but I suppose that is feasible. I mean, hot step siblings is a thing. It does happen. I don't have any. Just want to make that clear.
Robert, you need to talk about
this
something.
It's not my thing. I don't have any step siblings, you know.
And this is why.
They took them away from me.
They took them away.
So it comes down to relationships. I mean, is there something interesting within the voyage of sexual awakening, though, that does go on for some of them? I mean, like, so for Cecile, kind of going from pure innocence into being quite easily manipulated into lesbianism. Which, I mean, because that's the jump that we go. It's not. Although there is a bisexuality thing, because that's the whole argument, isn't it? There's, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is sort of teaching her how to be better by loving a woman first.
Well, see, this is the thing. That scene in particular, I think, obviously got parodied an awful lot in like mid-2000s culture. It was like this whole thing was like kiss in Cruel Intentions. But that is just what teenage girls do. Like, genuinely, and a lot of the times it is not homoerotic. It is just you're a horny teenager and you want to make out with somebody. So you're like, oh, let's pretend, you know, we'll kiss each other and practice for boys. That is a thing that happens. And it's not as sexy as they make it look in that film. Although the fact they do that in the middle of Central Park, with a picnic, I'm like, that was not my experience of this activity, but it's certainly, you know, not someone's laundry room in the back of Lisburn City Council, but anyway. But it happens. But yeah, no, there is this thing about Sarah Michelle Gellar's character of being like the ultimate kind of femme fatale, because she seduces both men and women and manipulates them that way. And Cecile's kind of exploration of sexuality isn't just heterosexual, which is quite, you know, that's nice, but it's...
But is that not also arguably presenting us with characters and reinforcing stereotypes about non-hetero characters actually being dangerous?
I would agree with that 100%.
That, you know, anything that deviates from the heteronormative is toxic and manipulative, and therefore everybody who's not heteronormative should
beware.
Be avoided.
To be fair, Joshua Jackson's character is exactly that as well, because he's a little blackmailing son of a bitch. But I do kind of like his character because he is the gay kid in the school. But when you're first introduced to him, he's not the kind of stereotype mincing, princing, I'm doing, you know, la-di-da thing that you did get a lot in the 90s. But when he's on the phone to Gregory, who's Eric from Ugly Betty, what's his name? Mabius?
Okay.
When he phones him up and he, like, Eric's Mabius' Greg character is like the jock, he's the quarterback of the football team. You know, he's doing that stereotypical, I'm in the closet thing, so I'm going to be even more hetero. And then Joshua Jackson phones him up and actively puts on a voice and puts on an act. I'm like, that was kind of interesting, because it's like, okay, so at least that, even though it's negative, I suppose, at least there was a depth to that character that you wouldn't necessarily get in other films. So he's just as evil and manipulative as Sebastian. And it's like, they're equals, even if that's a negative. But I'm like, in some way, every character in this film is a manipulator.
Sebastian has no control of his emotions, really.
No.
I mean, that's he starts off being a manipulator just for sex, and sort of shits and giggles. But then when he does start to have feelings, he can't control, which is very typical teenager behavior. We haven't a fucking clue at that age. But he starts going through that process. But he is all over the place. He's bouncing back and forwards, bouncing between caring and not caring, between what kind of person he is, and ultimately he's just another horrible person. I don't care about this film.
It's one of those things where I don't root for him at all.
No.
I don't root for anybody. I root for Kathryn to a certain degree, except with her. Like, the problem with Kathryn is obviously she uses Cecile as a tool in her, a pawn in her game with Sebastian. Like, if she'd have left Cecile alone and just been manipulating Sebastian, I would be on her side a little bit more. Her exposure at the end of the film, that makes me feel a wee bit weird. Because
What was the diary?
when the diary gets revealed
Forgot about
and
that, yeah.
her veneer is cracked and she's exposed for who she is, I don't know how I feel about it, because ultimately she is also just trying to survive this horrendous world that she occupies. And I'm like, she's ultimately made to be the villain of the piece, and I'm like, she's not the villain. Sebastian's like the villain of the piece, but he gets his redemption orb. But I'm like,
I don't know that I believe that it's going to have any massive consequences for her. I suppose it's part of the problem. And there's an element in which then you look at Cecile and Annette, who are obviously taking control of this exposure. And in a way, they're doing exactly the kind of... It feels a bit like the blackmailing that she would have done. And, you know, biblically, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's very appropriate. And, you know, if Annette has come from that kind of religious background to begin with, and that may indeed be part of the thinking, but again, there is I don't feel at any point you can look at any of the characters and say this is a good person, this is I think you can pretty much say everyone's a bad person to some extent, either because they are outrightly manipulative and narcissistic and evil, or they are making very awkward judgments that sit at odds with what they're professing to stand for, and therefore revealing themselves as massively hypocritical.
which again is very teenagery.
Massively.
So maybe in that way it is. I think the problem I have with the actions at the end with Cecile and Annette, it's girl on girl crime that's been committed in the name of a man. And again, women are being made to be the fallen. Like, essentially, it's Annette is Eve and Kathryn is Lilith. And it's very kind of that kind of I'm better than you because he loved me in a pure way thing. So I'm going to, you're going to besmirch. I don't know why they besmirch her reputation at all, because Sebastian was the active participant in the bet as well.
Well, he's dead.
And he's dead.
He's dead. So
he is dead.
He can't face any consequences. It's a way of getting her to face some sort of consequences. And I suppose Cecile in particular is the one that's been wronged by this.
That's true.
She's been massively manipulated into doing things that she maybe wouldn't have done at all, or maybe wouldn't have done at that time if it hadn't been for her deliberately manipulative intervention.
I feel like if Cecile had been given more agency in the ending, more than Reese Witherspoon handing her a stack of the diary and handing them out, then maybe I could get on board with that as a resolution to the story of Cecile putting a nail in it and getting some kind of, not revenge, but just payback. I think revenge is a strong word for what she needs, but she needs something back. But the fact that it's Annette, Miss Goody Two-Shoes, I'm like, okay, Jesus said forgive and let live, but like, okay, whatever. And then she steals his car. Can we talk about that? Just for a brief second. She literally, I'm like, oh, I'm sure his parents might want that back. Again, this is where like logistics in my head, when it comes to that kind of shit, I'm like, so like there was a meeting with a lawyer where he had a will where he just handed over this Jaguar Roadster to this girl he knew for 2 weeks. Yeah, his parents are going to let that happen.
I know. I think what it is actually it's they're becoming Sebastian and Kathryn.
Yeah, it's a symbol of like robbing her of the thing that because that ultimately is the subject of the bet. Because Kathryn has that bet with Sebastian because she's like, I want the car. And then Annette gets it in the end. And I'm like, well, this is... But to me, I'm like, sometimes that moral of the story can be interpreted. If you just slept with your stepbrother, he might have given you the car in the first place. Annette slept with your stepbrother and she's got the car now. What are we teaching children?
Sleep with your stepbrother.
And that is why Pornhub's biggest genre to date is step-siblings stuck in dryer. We had nothing to do with that. Not a thing. This film might have. Yeah, so I think all in all, it's a time capsule of the 90s, though. I think this is the dawn of the 2000s when this came out, 1999. You can watch Cruel Intentions and know immediately the atmosphere and the space that it embodied. And I think it is a perfect time capsule of how awful we were in the early 2000s, where we were like, isn't this a romantic teenage coming of age story? No, it's terrible, and they're all awful. But it is pretty. I'll say that it is pretty. I do love a jewel tone, although yeah, the fact that none of them dress like actual teenagers, apart from Gregory, who's the quarterback, and you're like, this is I know plenty of boys who wear 5-piece Armani suits just to like go outside.
Is that your final word on this then?
That's my final word on this. Have you got anything that you would like to add?
It's a crock of shit. I cannot recommend it. Don't bother.
Never seen it. Don't want to see it. That's our 2 cents. Thanks for joining us today on Never Seen It Film Club. We appreciate your following. Thank you very much. We are back with a new season in a little bit. So we have one more film next week to discuss, which is Y Tu Mama Tambien. And if you see us wearing the same clothes, no, you didn't, because we definitely recorded these separately. But if you would like to follow Accidental Theatre, you can do. We are Accidental T on Twitter, but Accidental Theatre everywhere else. And if you want to follow Robert, Cinepunkt, online only, don't follow them in person because that's rude. You can do that where?
You'll get me usually under Avalard, Avalard, or you'll get Cinepunkt at Cinepunkt, or on a couple of platforms where Cinepunkt film.
And we'll see you next time. Bye!